afterwards. Comedians, unprofessional or otherwise. All right, so that's kind of our core audience at Americom. We founded in 2001. We're a digital marketing agency. So we founded in 2001. I've been doing this about 12 years. We're located downtown. If you guys want to come by our office, we're on Gateway Street. I've been working, started in music, and have worked with filmmakers and comedians, and now we're working with brands. So Santa Barbara Bowl, Sonos, companies like that. And my personal background, I was a CSP film studies and Black Studies major. And awesome programs, both of them. And we started kind of as a web shop in 2001 before social media, and have evolved with that landscape. For about 4 or 5 years, I went on the road with Jack Johnson and ran merchandise. So I learned the music industry from the bottom up. Tons of different moving parts there, and it's really important to pay your dues and put in your 10,000 hours, so to speak. So that's where I started. Since then, we've created hundreds of websites, stores, apps, and marketing campaigns, and continue to do so. And the fun moment I like to talk about is when Steve Jobs invited Jack to do an iPod event, and he gave us a shout out, and that was like our big success back in like 05 or something. So I like to mention that. So if you're interested, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but essentially this is what our agency does. So anything from branding to building out a web presence, and then running fun, creative campaigns and advertising once there's a foundation of web properties. Here's some examples of different work, different campaigns, and Facebook apps, action for media kind of stuff. So I'm going to be talking today about why your brand should take a note from the music industry. How many of you guys have like a little startup or are entrepreneurs or have some stuff in the works? Awesome. So listen up. So first of all, what is the music industry? It starts with an audience. You've got to have fans. And really, what's shifted is that before brands, artists, etc. used to dictate the landscape. Now it's totally flipped, and the consumers or the fans of the audience, they're the ones that are now calling the shots. So you've got to listen to your audience. Everything else here that comprises the industry, I'm not going to go through, you guys can read, but really the big dichotomy is between content creators and content consumers, so artists and fans. Really that old model was, well, you got analog materials and eventually digital, but this business model has died. And like a lot of industries, from film to newspapers, music also is one of the first ones to do this analog to digital shift. So you have this old means of producing music in analog studios that very few record labels controlled, and it was very expensive to get time, hire producers, and record your content. And then, the big Capitol Records building is a symbol of the old model, and that was how records made it onto the radio and how people learned about music and how it made it to MTV was through, big labels like Capitol. And then, I don't know if any of you remember Tower Records, but I used to make pilgrimages there when I was a kid and spend hours going through bins, and that's just gone. I mean, even Borders, we have maybe one music store left in Santa Barbara, I think, maybe two. So this whole model is gone. So why? I mean, there was a lot of catalysts for this disruption. Obviously, we had the internet itself, peer-to-peer services like Napster, LimeWire, and now BitTorrent. You had social networks. MySpace was the big music discovery platform for a while. Obviously, YouTube for video in about 2005 when that started. Apple was huge with both iPods. You had the actual MP3 format, and then on the production side, Pro Tools. Pro Tools was huge in disrupting how people were able to make music at home. And now you can do it on your iPhone. It's crazy. So you have like the angry analog George looking back at the digital George because all the money is shifted now to digital. So this new business model, if you look at the bottom here, basically what this shows is from like the 70s through 2010 or so, and we went from vinyl, cassette, CD, and now you've got this singles, albums, and ringtones that have completely taken over. The amount of music consumed and actually purchased has gone up. So don't believe the hype when people talk about the music business being dead. It's not. It's the CD business that died. That's dead. But more people are making music and consuming music than ever before. So because of that, the industry had to adapt, and there's these new revenue streams from downloads and streams. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, do you think so? Like this new, there's like kind of a fad that's come back, like the vinyl stuff. Do you think that is just like a fad? Like it's just gonna be like.
I don't think it's a fad. I think vinyl is definitely a viable
like people just like
product, especially with DJs and electronic music, and also audiophiles that love to listen to.
Yeah,
good
exactly.
analog
We'll
music.
see some of your bands coming out with some vinyl stuff. And be like, I mean, it's not like mass produced, but.
Yeah, it's definitely one other option, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah.
But obviously CDs were the big seller, and that's gone.
Yeah.
So we'll have vinyl for a while. One of the big indicators that there had to be a shift was when record labels started doing these 360 deals. Have you guys heard of that? It's when they basically ask for a piece of every revenue stream from an artist, from their merchandise to their touring, their ticketing, music, their licensing, their publishing, everything. They got scared because they're watching all these artists leave the labels, do it themselves, create audiences and fan bases on their own, using their own social networks, using their own websites, and using toolkits that are inexpensive and or free. And so they had to start offering these 360 deals. I think the first one was Paramore, and then the big one was Madonna, and there's been a few others, and there's speculation on whether they're going to continue doing that or not, but there's still a few out there. But it shows that they are afraid. And 2012, a third of artists on radio are at independent labels. So that shows a major shift. That was like maybe 5%, a decade before. And now the other big shift is that consumers are accessible without a middle wall. So you've got artists that are able to reach directly into their fan base and their audience. And for anyone with a brand or a startup, that's something to take note of, because you don't need to have that infrastructure in the middle disrupting that relationship. You can go directly to your audience. So another big shift is this ubiquity of devices and ubiquity of media and consumption of that media. So everyone here, I'm sure, has a phone in their pocket, some kind of digital music source in their car, some kind of video and or music streaming service in their home. It's everywhere. So really, the big concern was that digital music wasn't high quality enough. That's completely not the case. You've got extremely high quality HD video on demand from any device anywhere, and same with music as well. So what happened? What's the new model? So now you've got production is do-it-yourself. Like I said, Pro Tools and on down to GarageBand, down to the iPhone or Android devices. You can make music, you can make video, you can do photography completely without any major infrastructure. You've also got this D2F, which is direct to fan, for marketing and distribution. And I'm going to talk a lot about that. And then really big with audio and video streaming is that you've also got this instant communication and connection with your audience. I mean, you can post a photo on Instagram and within seconds have people liking and commenting on it from a big band, and they can be doing a contest and giving away prizes and doing things directly on that app without any other infrastructure needed at all. So essentially, to summarize that, what I like to say is you sort of have this death of the middleman. You've got a band, tweeting. This is actually a real service. Grab our latest track, just reply "buy," and you reply "buy," and you link it up to your bank account, and it charges you $1 and you've got a digital file tweeted back at you. So that's an actual real music service through Twitter, and that's how fast and instant and immediate you can buy music straight from your favorite artist without needing anything else. So things have changed quite a bit. You don't need record labels, is the point. So that's kind of the historical background, the foundation. Any questions before I kind of jump into case studies and examples? I'm going to just cruise through. So how does this help you? So essentially, I've picked out about 6 or 7 examples and backed them up with some case studies. So I'm going to run through those. The first one is kind of the foundation of everything I'm talking about, which is direct-to-fan. So there's a couple acronyms, D2C and D2F, direct-to-consumer, direct-to-fan. We really focus at our agency to convert consumers into fans, and someone starts as a potential consumer, but ultimately you want them to end up being a fan or eventually a super fan and ambassador of your brand. And so here are some ways of how to do that and how things have shifted to enable that relatively inexpensively. So first of all, at the core of all of this is listening. You've got to listen. Like I said, your consumers are going to be the ones driving the landscape. So listen to what they want. Be extremely connected to them. And like I said, there's a lot of tools on the web that you can leverage, so much less infrastructure is required these days. And there is this sort of cyclical relationship with your audience. So before, sort of the old model is you go into a Sears and you buy something and you walk out and it's done. This is this ongoing relationship where you might give someone a free song to get them on your mailing list, and now you've got them on your list, and then you're going to hit the road, so you're going to send some tour dates out, and then you're going to get them to a show, and they're going to buy a t-shirt, and then your record comes out, and you're going to sell that. There's this ongoing relationship through these product cycles or these tour cycles that you can really re-engage over and over again. And then last thing for direct-to-fan is monetizing your existing web properties, as opposed to having to go to some Best Buy, Target, Walmart, brick and mortar store. In the old model, now you can sell directly through Facebook, through YouTube, through your website, through Twitter. So I'm going to step a little outside of music, although Kevin Smith is a rock star. The filmmaker uses service Topspin, which is a big partner of ours, and they're one of the toolkits I'm talking about for direct-to-fan. They're basically, you can set up a mailing list, set up a store, set up a fan club, you can do ticketing straight through Topspin, and it all integrates directly on your website, so you're controlling your own .com. And Kevin Smith decided, rather than going the traditional route with film distribution, that he was going to sell it straight on his website. He also sold tickets to screenings, because there's still this experiential element for film, which is you can do a director's Q&A session. So he did that at a bunch of key screenings and sold all the ticketing right through his website. He controlled everything, all the revenue streams. Topspin even has a little iPhone barcode scanner, so when you come to the theater, the ticket taker scans your printed out ticket with an iPhone app and you go in. And then after that, he sort of used those events to build a list, and then he was able to remarket to them to sell monthly subscriptions to his podcast. And again, all through his website. All revenue streams ran straight through the same website, ran straight through Topspin. So it's a really good example of direct-to-fan and taking control back from the major labels. In his case, from the major film production companies. So the next key for your brands or for your organizations is to focus on not just the product, but the process of getting to that product. I really believe in transparency, and that's one of our pillars at Intercom. We talk to all of our artists and brands about being transparent in authentic ways. And so by letting people in on your process, not only are you achieving transparency, but you're rounding out your brand. You're making it more three-dimensional, and you're adding value by giving additional content. So it's really important to be human and let your audience in. You have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, does this help with the whole piracy issue also, because you build that brand loyalty, so people kind of realize you're human and that's your work, and they like that much, they should pay you?
Absolutely. I mean, you you've got bands like Radiohead and Nine Inch Nails that say, hey, name your own price. You know, if you want to pay $0 for my music, take it.
Yeah.
But if you want to pay me $100 so I can keep making music, then we'll take it. I mean, so those were very successful examples of that, where for sure, you know, rather than trying to be Metallica in 2001 and saying Napster's bad and you know, piracy is bad, you know, just say, hey, here's the music and pay us what you want, and if you see value in us, you know, because we are connected to you and we are human to a degree, absolutely. The third pillar here is authenticity. You really want to be authentic and you know, figure out who you are as a brand. If it's a team of people, you know, sit with your team and come up with ideas on, you know, descriptive adjectives on what you are. How do you show up in the world, and how do you want people to perceive you? And then really what this content does is it creates talking points for storytelling, and your fans become the storytellers. So they can say, you know, in this case, this is G11 Special Sauce. So he handwrites a set list out after every show and takes a picture on Instagram. You can actually see like what his set list looked like scribbled out on a piece of paper, which is, people love it. You know, he gets hundreds and hundreds of likes within 10 minutes on Instagram. So here's G-Love. We work with him, and he's a really fun artist to work with. If you're not familiar, he's from Philly, and he's on Jack Johnson's record label, Brushfire Records. And so we've come up with 3 campaigns for this sort of process content. The first one is that he does these Instagram photos. There's a few examples up in the studio, sort of backstage with artists, more in the studio kind of stuff. Letting people into what life on the road is like, or what life in the studio is like, because fans really want that process content. That's sometimes more valuable than the end result. The second one we did is this 1207 video blog, where every Thursday at 12:07 p.m., no matter where he is, he's going to do a 10 to 30 second video. So there's some screenshots of him on a pier somewhere and him fishing with the band. So it doesn't have to be directly about music. It can be, you know, other not your craft, but things that can help round you out. You know, if you're into cooking as a musician, talk about cooking. And then the third one is we do like this track of the week, and oftentimes they're really unpolished and just straight from an iPhone, and, you know, not produced, not glossed, and people love that stuff. You know, it could be even like a chorus, like 30 seconds, just a sneak peek or something. So once you start letting people into your process, you're going to go down the road of achieving ambassadors, and this is really huge. I mean, there's a great article you can Google about 1,000 true fans, and it shows this long tail effect of like that first 1,000 core fans, and those are going to be your hardcore ambassadors. They're going to, you know, be on bated breath to hear everything you have to say, and be the first ones to retweet, the first ones to share anything that you're doing. Those are the ones that you want to serve. Those are the ones you want to cater to, and you really want to take care of them from the very, very beginning. So for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's going to be friends and family. It's going to be, you know, the ones closest to you as you spiral outwards. So take care of them and listen to what they have to say. So this is all about like cultivating your audience and really listening to them and giving meaningful offers regularly. The other thing is that the engagement should be organic and it should be ongoing. You should have, without having a strict schedule, you should have at least parameters in the schedule. Like, I'm going to do, you know, X number of Facebook posts a week. I'm going to do this many tweets a day. I'm going to do this much Instagramming. That's really good to get people in the habit. We help clients that are very anti-sharing and anti-social media but still want to try to get into it. Start on like baby steps and say this shouldn't feel like homework. This should feel organic. It should feel natural. You know, share when you feel like sharing. Don't be timid on it. So I'm actually going to share myself on me as an ambassador of a band I really love called Fish. And so I think this is a good case study for ambassadorship. So has anyone heard of them? A couple of people. So basically they're the most successful touring band that no one's ever heard of. I mean, in the last 4 years, they've generated $120 million in ticket revenue. They've got over 800 songs, and none of them have been on the radio. None of them are radio hits. They've got tickets by mail. People pre-order tickets months in advance, and this has been going on since like the 80s. People feel really lucky to be at the shows. They tape them. The band loves that the fans are taping shows because it's free publicity back. Essentially fans are spreading the gospel. So I'm section ambassador. I did 2 slides on this case study. So of the over 1,000 shows that they've played, more like 1,200, minimum 2 sets of shows, so that's over 2,400 sets, some 3 sets. They've never played the same set twice. And they've created a secret language musically on stage so they can improvise without talking. And they've covered over 350 songs, including 6 full records from the Beatles' White Album to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. They have a whole world called Gamehenge that they've created. They jump on trampolines during jams. They play it after dinner. There's a lot of really weird, wacky stuff that goes on. And so just to show you, the type of ambassadors that they create is they have really crazy fans that make applications that pull on statistics. So I was able to run my stats and I've been to 31 shows in 14 years, 4 of which were on Wednesdays, apparently. 8 in Colorado, 4 in Florida, 3 of the 4 time zones. I've seen 26% of their songs, 214 different songs, and about 19 and a half songs per show on average. So the stats get crazy. When you get a really hardcore fan base, this is the kind of result I'd say. This is on the extreme end, but that's the kind of relationship that you can cultivate. Now, these guys, it took them, they're in their 30th year, so definitely has taken a while, but they really stayed focused on their brand, and more than anything, they listen to their audience and they cater to their audience, because without them, they would be nowhere. So something kind of relatively new is user-generated content. This has become huge in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years in the music space. Bands are doing everything they can to facilitate users generating content on their behalf around, say, hashtags, around different ideas, different pieces of content. Maybe it's an album release, maybe it's a tour. But really this empowers your fan base and gives visibility to your brand. So if you can figure out a way for your startup to engage people on doing user-generated content, maybe around contesting. This one down here is interesting. It's a Dunkin' Donuts user-generated campaign thing where people apparently take pictures of them consuming their tasty beverages and upload them to Facebook for a chance to win travel. So really your fan base can be a catalyst of virality and help spread memes. We never say that something's going to go viral, but they can definitely help to spark that initial, batch of sharing. So here's a case study of actually something we've recently launched. You guys can check out if you want, marsiscoming.com. But it's for a band called 30 Seconds to Mars, based around hashtag. So the idea is you've got this large Google map down here with pins that are customized and dropped all over the world. Literally all 7 continents, including Antarctica, have photos from Instagram and Twitter shared from people around their new record. And they basically built buzz around releasing a single and then another single and then a record through this map. So phase 1 was really generating the content, using this hashtag, having people post on Twitter and Instagram. There's an example of a fan who wrapped their photo with the album and single artwork on Instagram, and so when you clicked on a pin, it would come up over the map. It still does, and you can check it out. And then on the right is a screenshot of what happens when you click on the little icon of the International Space Station. The band was crazy enough to send their single up into space. They actually launched it with SpaceX and sent their song to the astronauts at the International Space Station, where it was streamed first in space before on Earth. And then they asked their fan base, tweet us questions to ask the astronauts. And they went to Mission Control in Houston, and the band actually sat in the control center and talked to the astronauts, asking fan questions based on their Twitter feed. Again, really meaningful user-generated content. The fans felt super empowered. It was a really cool campaign. NASA was co-sponsoring the thing, and it went really well. So we're actually doing a third phase. That was sort of phase 1 and phase 2, and we're doing a third phase now, which we're rolling out in the next couple of weeks. But this type of thing too, that when you create a sort of infrastructure for user-generated content, you can keep going with more campaigns. It can become ongoing, an ongoing conversation and sort of a cyclical type of event. All right, next big one is crowdfunding. So lots of entrepreneurs are probably either talking to angels and or thinking about crowdfunding. This is a big one. There's plenty of services out there, from the big ones like Kickstarter and Indiegogo on down. I don't know how many of you have tried crowdfunding and if anyone's been successful. No one in here. We've definitely coaxed brands and artists towards this model, and it's worked several times. Big artists are raising lots of money. Amanda Palmer is a big success story if you've heard of her. She raised $1.2 million for her record through Indiegogo. She did it all herself and gave a middle finger to the labels and said, I'm doing this on my own, I'm leaving you guys. And the labels, wow, she raised $1 million. And she keeps like 90 some odd percent, as opposed to 15, 20 from the labels. So it's pretty awesome. Again, if you have an idea that your audience believes in, the reason I put crowdfunding so low in the deck, or so late in the deck, is so that you guys can see that you really need to cultivate that audience first. You need to create ambassadors first. And you need to build your mailing list first. Once you do that, crowdfunding may be appropriate, but I wouldn't jump right into it out of the gate. You don't want to just go straight into crowdfunding with no audience, no one listening, and expect Kickstarter to feature you on the homepage. It's just not going to happen. So really you want to add value with exclusive offers and experiential offers. This is key so that people feel like they're getting something they can't get anywhere else. For a band, that might be like an autographed copy of the album or some kind of content along those lines. And again, going back to process content, you want to let people in on the process of what it took to get to that product. So if you've heard of like the Pebble watch, it was like the most successful Kickstarter campaign, which was like a Bluetooth watch that connects to your smartphone. They had an insane amount of process content where they took you to China and toured the labs of where they did the research and development of the product. People loved it. They felt really connected to the product, and that became a huge success. So the case study here is Ben Folds 5. They took some years off of playing music as a band. Ben Folds had been doing solo stuff for years. And so when they came back, they decided to use a platform called Pledge Music, which is kind of like Kickstarter for musicians, but it has a 501c3 nonprofit component, so some kind of a charity angle. So 10% of everything raised goes to a charity of the artist's choice. So Ben Folds 5 decided to go to Pledge Music, where we work really closely with those guys, and they're amazing on what they do. I think they have like an 85% success for campaigns, which is unheard of. So because they really get hands-on with each campaign to make sure that the bands are doing everything properly. So with Ben Folds 5, you can see here that like a lot of, all this content here is exclusive. They would have this sort of green badge next to it that said this is an exclusive update for pledgers only. They let people in on like the pressing of the vinyl, the first pressing of the vinyl, in the studio. There's the first record hot off the presses. They released the album artwork through Pledge Music. The only way you could see what the record was going to look like was to pledge on a campaign. And they showed sheet music. They did videos with the band members. It was really engaging, and they reached over 350% of their target. I think the average pledge was like $35, which if you think about it, people pay 99 cents for a song, or they pay $10, $12 for an album. So to get over $30 per pledge is incredible. They had stuff up to like $2,500 where you get your name featured and stuff and all that kind of thing. But I think the average is like $30 dollars. Pretty amazing. So another big thing is really what happened when the CD business died is bands had to figure out how to sell music without just selling music. So bundling became really popular, and most artists do this nowadays. When they release a record, they'll bundle it with other merchandise. So, t-shirts, posters, stickers, tote bags, whatever. You know, a lot of people, especially younger people, devalue the album, I think, because of how accessible they are. You've got the entire catalog on Spotify or Rdio. You can pirate anything with like 3 clicks now. It's pretty insane. So because of that, the artists needed to figure out how to add value back to their album, and sort of this ancillary product happened. So here's 3 examples of product bundles that we created web presences to sell that were really successful. The first one is The Who. They re-released Quadrophenia, which is a big album from the 70s. And along with it, you've got this beautiful colored book, you have a t-shirt, you have all this extra bonus content. So it's sort of what happened in the early 2000s with DVDs, where all the second disc content, the bonus content came out. That's really the concept of bundling in the film space. The second one here is Jack Johnson's Kakua Festival. They bundled the CD with t-shirts and water bottle and tote bag, which goes with his environmental theme, you know, getting people not to use plastic bottles and plastic bags. And then lastly, you have this Phantom of the Opera, I think it was the 40th anniversary, I don't know, some anniversary box set. It's like a $125 box set, but they sold more than the CD by itself. People bought more of those than just the $10 CD. So Case Study is actually something we released. We have a little nonprofit record label ourselves. And so we have this album series called Solutions for Dreamers. And the third one benefited the United Nations World Food Program. And because of that 501c3 partnership, people really wanted to, donate a little bit of extra money. So we created a story. It's not just, hey, we're supporting this cool artist and putting a compilation of music together. It's also, it supports World Hunger. And so we had the $15 CD or the $60 t-shirt CD sort of sticker pack, and we sold much more of those. I mean, bundling just works. And it beats the heck out of a 99-cent single. I think our average was $22 in order. So now, once you sort of created this foundation of ambassadors, and you've done your merchandising, and you've done all this, you've got people that are coming back to you over and over again. At this point, it's safe to say that maybe a fan club will work. I don't recommend fan clubs for, early stage artists or brands, but definitely more established artists can run fan clubs. And this is sort of that red velvet rope concept where people are on a subscription model paying you monthly or quarterly or annually for content, for experiences, for chances to win, for pre-sale tickets, for meet and greets, whatever it may be. So one really fun fan club we set up is for Ron White, a comedian, and he charges $25 a year, and you basically get access to his silly weekly web TV show, where he's on the road and being really foul-mouthed, and you're on the tour bus with him, you're backstage with him, you're meeting his crew. You also have chances to win, fly on his private jet with Ron, go meet him backstage. You got first access to pre-sale tickets, best seats in the house kind of thing. Works really well. So this has been wildly successful. Even after the first 3 to 6 months we ran it, it totally paid for the entire infrastructure, setting it up, and now it's just all profit from there. So this kind of thing that allows artists to really create an extra revenue stream and take a break on the road or whatever it is they're doing. And as long as they're having enough content throughout the year to fulfill this, fans will pay the $25 a year. So I figured I'd throw in one last case study. This is a really cool campaign we did. I'll explain it really quick. We worked with Tom Waits, the artist, to do a pre-album release listening party on the web, where essentially people were emailed a code that were on his mailing list. They got to come into a page, put in their code, and stream the entire record as many times as they want. If they wanted to share it with a friend through Facebook, Twitter, or email, they would be able to generate a B code and send that B code out to their friends. So we were able to track who's the A code and who's the B code. And for people that came in on the B code, we were able to track how many of those people sign up on the mailing list to come in and listen to the record. So we ran this for 4.5 days. In that 100 hours, We had 250,000 visits to the site. He started with 88,000 on his mailing list. We grew an additional 49,000 from e-codes, and 20,000 by people sharing codes. So another 69,000 to his 88,000. Extremely successful. Just by giving people early access to something that was coming out anyways. 92% of people actually interacted. That means they listened, they shared, they tweeted, they talked about it. And the average person listened to 6 tracks. So it's not just someone coming, playing a song, and leaving. I mean, these were engaged people. So we had over 1 million track streams of that 250,000 visits. So really, really successful campaign. I'll leave on that note. I'd love to open it up to questions that you guys may have.
Hey, so how would you reach out to your clients? How's like Ron White and Who, for example? How do you guys get connected?
Honestly, we don't do any traditional marketing as a marketing agency. We do everything based on relationships. It's all word of mouth. It's all putting really killer work on the web and putting our logo at the bottom, having people find it, and or managers or labels talking to other managers and labels and saying you should go work with these guys. So really, it's you never know who you're going to meet and who's going to find you.